demon that you conjured that actually goes out and executes it. He just goes assigns some of his servants, because there's a very strict hierarchy among demons and angels, and so you'd often have to beseech a higher authority in order to get one of the lower ones to do what you want.
And in many cases, do you think that this would be for material gain by some of the people who have been doing it? If we talk about the Illuminati again, for instance, as you said, they might have specific wishes in regards to looking into the future in order to predict events ahead of time and to make financial decisions even based on that. But is there other reasons that you notice in the Necronomicon or other literature that seems to point towards why human beings would be interested in doing these things and try to conjure up these beings?
Well, humans have a natural inclination to control their environment and to become more powerful than their peers. It's just a natural part of our, maybe it's a self-preservation method. As for the Satanists, they follow what is called the left-hand path, which is basically anything goes. They can do anything they want, do as thou will. And so it's not, I see them just doing it mainly for material gain. I mean, there's no right and wrong in their eyes.
And do you think they're what's your outlook on that? Do you think they're wrong when they're doing that? They don't understand what they're meddling in, or do you think that they do, but they just don't give a shit? Or what do you think the reason is there?
Well, they're definitely wrong in what they're doing. We'd hardly be having this conversation if the world was going correctly. So they're definitely doing wrong, and yes, they're fully aware. A lot of them have sold their souls, literally. I mean, it sounds like a stupid thing to say, but they're fully aware of their actions, and they're fully committed to their actions here on Earth.
So there's a few other interesting points here as well we can talk about. One thing that you bring up is I think it's called Igigi, and basically, is this the same thing as the abyss or the what do you call it, the bottomless pit or the pit of hell, or is this something else? Igigi.
I believe that it's the abyss. It's mentioned as the abyss, so it's the very same terminology that's used in the Bible to describe the bottomless pit. It is the very same place. You'll find that they use the same names over and over.
They do, huh?
Or
yeah.
Same references,
And so how does Cthulhu, for instance, come into this whole picture as well? There's a few different. This is more from the H.P. Lovecraft kind of mythos, if you will, as far as I know. But Cthulhu might be directly mentioned in the Necronomicon as well. What is his role? Is there another name for this deity as well that we can hear from Babylonian or Sumerian mythology?
I believe that his name in the Christian tradition is the Antichrist, and for the Muslims he would be Dajjal. He has a lot of characteristics about him that match up to the Antichrist from the Bible, coming out of the ocean, being idle for all these years, and then coming up out of the sea in order to claim a kingdom on earth. And none of the other higher demons mentioned in the Necronomicon are going to have a kingdom on earth except this one. And so he kind of lines up directly with other characters who are soon to come from other scripture and other religions, and going to have a kingdom. So he lines up very much with those very same Antichrist characters.
There's another H.P. Lovecraft connection. He talked about Dagon. There was even a movie released in 2001, I think, by a Spanish director called Dagon, which goes into a little bit on Cthulhu and things like this. But again, this connects with this idea of the fish people, or again the merfolk in one way. What can you say about Dagon? And as far as I know, there's various other deities throughout Sumerian, Babylonian mythology that seems to incorporate the same properties. Oannes is one name. I don't know if it's Enki or Enlil also that seems to have the same properties, or it might be Marduk actually, who carries the water and kind of comes with a tail of fish, or the kind of the Pope hat, if you know what I mean, the fish head as the headdress, right?
Yeah. Well, Dagon, like as you mentioned, is from Sumerian, and another of his code names is Leviathan. I don't really know too much about the character specifically, although I know that unlike Cthulhu and many of the others, he is here on Earth as opposed to stuck in the abyss or stuck underwater or has an idle body. He is actually still active and roaming around in the water.
In the water, yeah. And do you think that this is where the whole lore of the mermaids and the mermans come from? The mer people, and basically the ones who are half fish and half human beings.
Absolutely. There's been there's a lot of references, especially in other Necronomicons, where the children of Dagon have had sexual association with humans and have produced a half-breed offspring. And so we actually have a long history together, this bottom of the ocean race and ourselves. They're not all particularly bad, but they're just more corrupted than usual. They have that demonic seed that, just they can't fight. But from what I gather, they're still out there. And yes, it is the Dagon and his offspring are from all of our merfolk tales come from him and his offspring. Yes.
And do you think that they're, in that sense, literally in the deep waters, or is this again yet an analogy for that they're being hidden under another dimension? They're under the surface, so to speak, and what that refers to is actually another dimension and not physically in the water on this planet, or what do you think about that?
Say that again?
When you refer to like that they're in the water or in the deep ocean, do you think that is the literal case?
Yes.
You do?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of strange because sometimes you have references to the abyss and it's referring to water, and then sometimes you have reference to abyss and it's an extra dimensional place.
Exactly.
Very easy to get confused. You have to just kind of look at the context.
So it can be both, and it can be depending on the situation. Then I guess in one way it might be under the water, but it's actually again they're hidden away or locked away in another dimension and waiting again for the gateway to be opening so that they can resurface up to the surface again, right?
Yeah, but those particular ones, they're definitely in another dimension. The ones that are going to come all at once. It's usually in the Necronomicon, for instance, the reference is the ocean or the sea, so there's not really ambiguity. You can tell when he's talking about under the water, and then you can tell when he's talking about the bottomless pit, dimensional abyss.
Interesting. And there's another character here as well that you brought up and discussed, and I think you potentially did a whole series or a whole episode, I'd rather say, than on this character, Nylar Hotep. I don't know if I might butcher that name. Asimodeus, same one. Tell us a little bit about that guy.
This guy is apparently the head of the Illuminati, or at the very top, from what I gather. This guy is half human and half something else, and there are mentions of Asmodeus in almost every single text. There's so many of them out there where he's Asmodee or Asmodeus. Very common name. In the Necronomicon, his name is Nyarlathotep, and he is the messenger. He is the one who can speak directly to the agents, what we would call the Illuminati, but the agents of the demons here on our material plane. So he's kind of like this go-between. He's always coming up and down, and it's not just in the Necronomicon, but in many other places. Asmodeus is referred to this as this go-between that can easily drop into the abyss and then come back out and then, handle business and then go back to the abyss and complain about his problems here on Earth. But he's often connected with the colors dark purple, the pyramid, and the all-seeing eye.
There you go. And it's a very similar kind of look to this guy as to, let's see, I'm going to look up the name because I forget it now. I'll come back to me here, but basically it says as well that he was considered to be, Asmodeus I'm talking about now, considered to be the king of the 9 hells. So we're kind of back around the loop again and going back to the 9 spheres or the 9 gates again.
Yeah.
It's
really, very like I said, that's a common reference. Those 9 gates. That's 9 lower realms and 9 realms. That's very common throughout many scriptures.
Let's see. There's in Royal Archmasonry. There is one kind of God who has